Get ready for a heart-wrenching story that will take you on an emotional roller coaster. Meet Alan Carlson, a 99-year-old man living in a secluded Swedish village with his beloved cat. They share a special bond, but tragedy strikes when the cat is brutally killed by a wolf. Alan is devastated and feels completely alone, but he refuses to let the wolf go unpunished. Determined to seek revenge, Alan sets up a trap with dynamite and lures a fox with some mouth-watering sausages. In a split second, the fox is blown to smithereens, leaving Alan feeling momentarily satisfied. But the consequences of his actions catch up with him, and he's sent to a retirement home where he's left to live out the rest of his days. Alan has been at the retirement home for weeks, but he still can't get used to it. He is desperate to go outside and breathe fresh air, but the authorities won't let him. Frustrated with the situation, Alan decides to escape through a window on his 100th birthday. Although he has no plan or family to contact, he is thrilled to finally be free. After wandering the streets for a while, he ends up at a bus station. He asks the receptionist for tickets to the next bus, but he doesn't have enough money. The receptionist suggests a nearby town called Voyager, which has only one inhabitant, but Alan is eager to go anywhere but the retirement home. Just as he buys his ticket, a rough-looking man named Bolton shows up with a large suitcase and orders Alan to watch it while he goes to the bathroom. The old man reluctantly agrees to watch Bolton's suitcase, but as soon as the bus arrives, he decides to take it with him. During the journey, Alan begins to reminisce about his childhood. He shares a tragic story of how his father invented a new rubber protection and tried to promote it, but was imprisoned and eventually executed by the Swedish monarchy. Alan recalls the day he learned about his father's death and how he felt nothing as he was never close to him. Instead, he found solace in experimenting with explosives, which eventually became his hobby. After his mother passed away from cancer, Alan was left alone, but he continued to pursue his passion for blowing things up and got better at it over time. Now, in the present day, Alan finds himself in a small town called Voyager, in the middle of nowhere, with nothing but a large suitcase and a thirst for adventure. As Alan wanders around with his suitcase, he catches the eye of the station in charge, Julius, who asks if everything is okay. Alan explains that he just wants to explore the world before he passes away. Moved by Alan's story, Julius invites him to his house for some food. Meanwhile, back at the retirement home, officials have discovered that Alan has disappeared and a search operation has been launched, led by Detective Aronson. As we shift our attention, we find Bolton on the move with the beaten-up receptionist, determined to track down his precious suitcase. It's clear that there's something very valuable tucked away inside, and he's not going to rest until he gets his hands on it. After a grueling journey, they finally reach the small town of Voyager, where Bolton immediately barges into the only house in sight, looking for answers. Julius, the owner of the house, finds himself at the receiving end of Bolton's brutal assault as he demands information on the suitcase. Just when things are looking bleak for Julius, Alan steps in and delivers a decisive blow to Bolton's head, knocking him out cold. The two old men quickly seize the opportunity and lock him up in a freezing unit. As the dust settles, Alan and Julius can't contain their curiosity any longer and decide to crack open the suitcase. What they find inside leaves them stunned: piles and piles of cash. Despite their advanced age, the lure of the money proves too strong, and they decide to keep it for themselves. As they bask in their newfound wealth over drinks that night, they can't help but wonder what other adventures and surprises lie in store for them in this small, sleepy town. The next morning, Julius discovers Bolton's lifeless body in the freezer, sending shockwaves through the oldies. The guilt of an innocent man's death weighs heavily on their conscience, but for Alan, the feeling is all too familiar. In fact, he had accidentally killed someone before, a merchant, while testing his explosives, and was locked up in a mental asylum for 3 decades. As a punishment, the officials had even neutered him, fearing his offspring would pose a danger to society. After his release, Alan worked at a cannon factory where he met Esteban, a Spanish revolutionary who introduced him to politics. The two became fast friends, and Esteban convinced Alan to join him in the fight against the dictatorship in Spain. They traveled to Madrid with a plan to assassinate General Franco, but Esteban's talkative nature resulted in his untimely demise on their first day in Madrid. Alan was a master of destruction, fearlessly blowing up anything in his path. His explosive expertise made him an integral part of the revolution, leading his group to victory in countless battles. But one fateful day, Alan abruptly quit and decided to return to his homeland of Sweden. As fate would have it, Alan's journey home took an unexpected turn when he flagged down a car for a lift. Just as he hopped in, a massive explosion shook the ground nearby. To his shock, the person behind the wheel was none other than General Franco, who regarded Alan as a hero for saving his life. In a stunning display of gratitude, General Franco threw a lavish party in Alan's honor, gifting him with a rare and coveted pistol. Fast forward to the present day, where the lifeless body of Bolton is unceremoniously dumped into a box bound for Djibouti. Meanwhile, a savvy receptionist from earlier rushes to the police station to inform Detective Aronson of the curious old man and Bolton's suspicious disappearance. The detective wastes no time and races to the town of Byrange, scouring the house for any signs of foul play. Finding no evidence, Detective Aronson takes to the airwaves, announcing a hefty reward for anyone who can locate the missing centenarian. In another location, a fierce-looking individual named Geddan is introduced, who happens to be the leader of the same gang that Bolton was once a member of. Currently under house arrest for a recent crime, things are about to go from bad to worse for Geddan. You see, a suitcase he was supposed to deliver to one of his clients has gone missing, and he has a mere 24 hours to find it before he's executed. Talk about a ticking time bomb. Meanwhile, Julius and Alan are in for an adventure of their own. On their way back home, they have a sudden change of heart and decide to go somewhere else. Enter Benny, a seemingly innocent guy. They ask for a ride. When Benny asks where to drop them off, the oldies say, "Wherever you're headed." Benny's a bit confused, but he doesn't let it bother him and starts driving. The trio stops at a gas station to freshen up, but little do they know that things are about to get sticky. Benny spots Alan's missing posters and confronts him about it. Alan tries to spin a web of lies to get out of it, but it's no use. He ends up spilling the beans about how they killed a man and are sitting on millions in cash. But wait, there's more. Julius sees an opportunity and offers Benny a chance to join their team and drive them around the country. In exchange, Benny gets an equal share of the loot. Benny didn't hesitate for a second before accepting Julius and Alan's offer. Little did he know, this decision would lead him on a wild ride through the remarkable life of Alan. It all started when Alan sold a pistol given to him by Franco in exchange for a work permit to America. He started out as a construction worker but eventually made his way into the inner circle of renowned scientists like Oppenheimer. With his vast knowledge of explosives, he even helped solve a crucial problem in the Manhattan Project, the development of the largest nuclear bomb at that time. Alan's reputation grew so much that even the vice president invited him for dinner. Years later, Alan returned to Sweden as a hero for his contributions to nuclear physics. While in a meeting with Swedish diplomats, he met a Russian scientist named Popov. Their shared interest in explosives quickly led to a friendship, and Popov invited Alan to come to Russia with him. On his first day in Moscow, Alan met with none other than Joseph Stalin. The Soviet leader demanded that Alan reveal everything about the Manhattan Project, but Alan refused. As punishment, he was sent to the infamous Gulag, where he had an unexpected encounter with none other than Herbert Einstein, the timid twin brother of the Albert Einstein. After plotting for an entire year, the two managed to pull off an explosive escape from their captors. Fast forward to the present day, Benny and Alan's luck takes a turn for the worse when their car runs out of gas. With nowhere else to go, they stumble upon a roadside farm and meet the tough-talking owner, Gunilla. Despite her gruff exterior, Gunilla takes pity on the stranded travelers and offers them a place to stay for the night. But her kindness comes at a price, a hefty fee that the trio can easily afford. As they settle in, Gunilla introduces them to her most prized possession, an unexpected companion in the form of a pet elephant living in a nearby shed. Days turn into weeks, and the unlikely group becomes fast friends. Gunilla doesn't mind their prolonged stay, finally having found some good company. However, their newfound tranquility is short-lived when a gang member tracks down Alan and holds him at gunpoint. The thug demands they hand over his suitcase or face the consequences. With no other choice, Benny retrieves the bag, but before the gang member can make a getaway, Gunilla steps in with a weapon of her own. In a moment of panic, the gang member trips and falls right under the massive elephant's feet. The poor animal becomes terrified and, in its fright, accidentally crushes the gang member to death. In a moment of desperation, the men reveal the truth about the suitcase of money to Gunilla, and offer her an equal share if she helps them dispose of the body. Meanwhile, Geddan grows increasingly anxious as two of his gang members go missing, so he decides to remove his ankle monitor and search for the money himself. In a riveting flashback, we learn that Alan had become a CIA agent and was approached by the KGB to become a double agent. For years, he passed on confidential information to both sides without being caught. Returning to the present, the group disposes of the gang member's body and decides to leave Gunilla's farm for safety reasons. They load up her truck, which happens to have enough space for her pet elephant, and hit the road. But their journey is far from over, as Geddan catches up to them and tries to shoot the driver. Chaos ensues, resulting in a dramatic and dangerous car crash. In the aftermath of the violent clash, Geddan is left severely wounded and in need of medical attention. Despite their differences, the group decides to tend to his injuries and bring him along for the ride. With the aid of Alan's connections, they secure a plane and set off for their final destination. Geddan wakes up confused and disoriented, with no memory of how he got there. But instead of causing trouble, he chooses to stick with the group and find out what fate has in store for him. After a long and arduous journey, the group finally reaches Bali, where Alan reveals his master plan. He had been dreaming of living out his days in the beautiful, tropical paradise ever since he laid his hands on the suitcase. Benny and Gunilla take the next step in their relationship and get engaged, while Geddan decides to turn over a new leaf and start fresh. As the group settles into their new lives, the elephant they rescued from Gunilla's farm finally gets the chance to roam free and live a peaceful existence in the lush forests and sandy beaches of Bali. The adventure may have been perilous, but in the end, everyone found their own version of a happy ending. The movie ends here.